your music is kind of a mixture of a lot of different stuff,
right.
Rap and funk.
Yeah.
And how did that come about? Why do you take such a different?
Because where we're from in Hollywood, California, there's a multitude of musics for us to listen to. We've been lucky to have the opportunity to listen to all kinds of music, from funk, jazz, reggae, hardcore, punk rock, all kinds of music. And we're fortunate enough to have open minds and not to ever put ourselves into, well, I like rock, or I like jazz, but to love anything that has soul and passion and fire. And to us, there's only two kinds of music. There's soulful music and non-soulful music. And the music that we play just comes very naturally. It's not preconceived. So everything that we've taken in just naturally flows out of us.
It's like we're a band that's based on shattering barriers, and we don't try to be one specific genre. Whatever we honestly believe in, it's in us. It's going to come out in our music, and we're not afraid to do anything. And like they said, we live in Hollywood, California, which is a complete melting pot of cultures, and it's just very much reflected in our music. It's a direct extension of our lives, really.
It looks like, when we think about LA or Hollywood, we think more of metal bands.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sort of backlash to you guys bringing in non-metal
No.
styles?
LA is known, I think, abroad a lot, because those are the bands that are really making it big, like this glam metal, like Poison and Guns N' Roses, but there's a really vibrant, good, healthy music scene in Los Angeles that's totally apart from that. It's done by free-thinking musicians, and we have a song called "Good Time Boys," and I new record that's sort of about that, and about the camaraderie that we have with those, with that musical community, and it's really great. I think LA, it's the scene that I know the best, of course, but of all the places that we've traveled to a lot of places. I think it's just about one of the best music scenes in the world.
And also, part of being a good musician or a good message maker is being very in touch with the universe as a whole and the world as a whole, and not just to wear blinders and ignore everything other than what you can see. We try to make ourselves aware of the world as a whole, in one place, and not just limit ourselves to glam band.
Well, it seems like now that your band is kind of being recognized as sort of a 90s band. I guess that the times are catching up with you. Was it pretty rough in your early stages? Did you have trouble kind of busting down the barriers there?
I think that a lot of the fact that we're just now getting recognized comes from the extensive hard work and touring that we've been doing through the 80s. And as far as success is concerned, I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers have always been very successful, because we don't necessarily aim solely for financial or commercial success. We aim to make music that we're proud of and that we believe in, and that'll stand up over time. And that we've always been able to support ourselves through our music and feed ourselves, to clothe ourselves, and to put a roof over our head. And we've always had whether it's small or large, a very fanatic and devoted group of fans that really appreciate what we create, because it's so different from the rest of the music in the world. So we've always felt real positive and real confident about what we've been doing. It's just that now, for more business-oriented reasons, I think we're getting more exposure and more acceptance, by the masses. In America, a lot of the level of success is achieved through the media, which isn't really our main concern, but it certainly helps get your point across to the world at large. To be on MTV and to be on the radio. And our record company is just now getting to the point where they understand us and believe in us enough so that they're doing their job. I think we've always done a great job at what we're supposed to do, which is make music. It's just that now EMI has decided that maybe they can actually make money by promoting us. So hence the success.
So why do you think the record company thinks it can make money off you now? How do you analyze this recognition of the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
By them? On the record company's part.
By the
change. Well, I think for one thing, as far as the record company, there was changes made at the company personnel-wise that really helped us a lot, because I think we had people in positions of helping us that had more open minds. And also, I just think we made a damn good record. I think the record, we've always made good records, but I think that the record that we made, our newest one, is the most accessible and not by any intention of ours as far as like being commercial or anything. I just think it's because after the tragedy of what happened with Hillel and everything that we've been through, it was just, we were very focused when we made the record. I think that in the early stages of just of the music and the way it was recorded, that I think Michael Beinhorn did a really good job, and I think that the new members helped a lot. Chad and John, and just a very strong, powerful sound that we captured on vinyl.
You said the tragedy helped focus you?
In some ways, yeah, because it was sort of like after it happened, it was such an awful thing, and when we finally got back on track and started doing it, it was definitely a feeling of I mean, this is it. We had seen death so close, and we had to. It was just a matter of going for it, and really doing it. And, which is what we've always done. But I think it, in some ways, it definitely inspired us.
A lot of people mention you guys in the same breath as Bad Brains and Living Color. What do you think of those? Well, what would you call them? Black rock albums?
Right. There's an interesting dichotomy there, because the Bad Brains and Living Color are both bands that are helping to break barriers down. Because I think a lot of ignorant people expect black musicians to play only one type of music, whether it's disco, dance, soul, or funk or something like that. When it's all about playing what you believe in and what you feel and what you love. And if that's what they feel and believe in, I'm really happy that they're playing it and showing the world that it doesn't matter what color you are. Music is colorblind. And I think we're sort of the same way. We play anything. And, we don't play, like you said, heavy metal glam music just because we're white. We play what we believe in. And so in that sense, there's a similarity. But personally, for me, I find the Bad Brains to be one of the greatest bands in the world. And I don't necessarily feel that way about Living Color. I like Living Color, but they don't move me like the Bad Brains do. So getting compared to the Bad Brains to me is a much higher compliment.
Well, you guys must feel pretty strongly that you are part of some kind of a new movement of guys who are trying to turn the market upside down, turn the music scene upside down.
I think that I think what we're doing is definitely new, but I mean we're just part of any musician that's ever, or any band that's ever played honest music, in the face of a commercial media that is, thrives on just rehashing yesterday's look, yesterday's hit, in a spineless and gutless way. And we're definitely doing that. We're definitely, in the face of the commercial industry, we're playing music that is comes straight from our hearts. And it's new because we're doing it now, but I mean that's happened all through the ages. There's always been artists that have been true to themselves and not, selling out for the sake of material gain. Even though, I'm definitely into material gain.
Most people mention sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The same sentence there. How about in your guys' case? Does that apply here?
Well, in my own personal case, I love sex and I love rock and roll. I think drugs are a really sad thing. I've had my share of experiences with them, and now I'm completely devoid of any sort of drug or alcohol experience. And to me, music is one of the most beautiful things in the world, and so is sex. And personally, for me, drugs takes away from both of those aspects of my life. It's kind of like when people say sex and violence in the same phrase. Those are two different things. To me, sex is something that's just one of the greatest energies and one of the greatest euphorias I know of that's natural, and it's if it's done with a good conscience, and it's not detrimental to your life, whereas drugs definitely can be detrimental, and usually are in most cases. We certainly don't purvey any sort of a drug-oriented message in our music. If anything, it's a pro-life message, which doesn't usually include drugs.
Do you think that message gets across?
Yeah, I think most people that get into our lyrics are pretty aware of that.
彼に聞いた。
You want to know about my personal habits?
Not in any great detail, maybe just more like your ideals.
My ideals as far as sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
Yeah.
I think that every different person, knows, I think that there's a time and a place for each person to do what he wants to do. I think that anybody that lives negatively or does things to harm himself is going to pay the price. And I think everybody should do their best to be strong and healthy and happy.
それはなんていうか
どういうふうにこういったことあるの？
そういう反省からこういうふうな関係になったってこと？
いや、ある時、突然の、なんていうかな、虚しさを感じ始めて、それでやめて。
じゃあガンズ&ローゼズみたいに未だにその。
It must seem like terribly silly when people like Guns N' Roses sort of almost make kind of a mockery of the whole thing. By they seem to kind of flaunt conspicuous drug consumption.
Well, that's their gig, I think. Like Flea said, people pay the price for self-destruction eventually. I have a sneaking suspicion that their whole drug thing is going to catch up with them, and they're either going to change their ways or they're going to be miserable. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think they're a great band, and they make great music. I like them because they're real nice guys. And, I look forward to the time when perhaps drugs aren't such a big part of what they're all about, because I think it's becoming detrimental to their creativity.
Well, I mean, it's like, you can sit there and you're going to get mad at any, musicians for doing drugs. It's like, what are you going to, not listen to Jimi Hendrix records anymore? Nobody. I'm not saying anything now.
I caught up with Jimi Hendrix too.
I caught up with anybody. I'm just saying, what he's saying that it's anger us that their fans are flaunting drug abuse. And, lots of great musicians who, intoxications have been a big part of their lives.
It's almost kind of part of the evolution, I guess, of the process.
I think it's, it's definitely part of evolution. I mean, some people are, not to get people die because of that.
In spite of your rather wild image, he points out that your songs seem like they're really intricately put together. Like, what is the process of that? It's a pretty complex thing.
It's very non-intellectual process. It's just basically four guys getting together and rocking their asses off and coming up with tunes. We're very unformulated. And, hopefully, when we get together to write a song, it's just something that's going to happen as natural as taking a shit or having an orgasm. We like to constantly improve and learn things about ways of creating songs, but it's something that just happens. We don't really spend a great deal of time intellectualizing the situation.
He points out that you do display a very sophisticated level of technique. Does that come from years of playing air guitar?
Lots of air guitar, air drums, many years in front of the mirror. Well, we just do our thing. I think that since we love our music so much, when we play our music, we play it like we love it. And it just comes through.
Speaking on behalf of these three guys, instrumentalists, they're all very dedicated to their craft, and I think it comes from love. It's not so much that they're forcing themselves to study or to practice because they've got to achieve something. They love it so much. Each one of these guys has spent thousands of hours practicing their instrument. Otherwise they wouldn't be able to do what they do. And they are very hardworking, very dedicated, and just naturally talented to boot. But take Greenie, for instance, our guitar player. He grew up in a very desolate, remote area of Los Angeles called the Valley, Chatsworth. And music was the only thing that mattered to him for years. He would just stay up all night long playing his guitar, listening to music, transcribing John Coltrane solos into guitar. And I think that gave him the physical ability to be able to play what he feels he wants to play. And that's important to this band, to have the chops to play what you feel, because a lot of times what we feel you know, is very aggressive and very physically requiring. And so, you know, there is a lot of practice and a lot of hard work that goes into doing what we're up to.
But then we just forget about all that stuff, and then just all the, you know, the technical aspects that you do, and just let it flow out, you know, naturally. We don't think about it, you know. Just especially performing, you know, we just get out there. We don't think about, you know, oh, am I playing everything perfect or whatever. We just put all our energies into entertaining and rocking out. You know. It's very second nature, especially on stage.
And that's, I mean, you know, the whole point of knowing how to play is so you cannot think about playing, you know, when you're playing.
Just sort of emit it.
Yeah, I mean, it should just be, you know, from your brain through your amplifier. You know.
This way it comes through our cocks, the amplifier, out into the ears and orifices of the audience. We aim for a number of orifices, not just the ear hole, the nostril.
A number of cavities.
Yeah. The anus.
How many cavities?
The dick hole.
10?
Every pore.
Every pore. That's not the pore.
フィーリングだけでやってるって。
当然今、フィーリングでね、you're the bassist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he was quite impressed with the way you were slapping the bass. So I've never seen anybody quite flog the bass that quickly.
Quick flog.
Must have come after quite a bit of practicing.
I don't know, you know, I don't know, I think it's more, less practice, and to tell you the truth, I've never really been the biggest practicer in the world.
He practices.
I guess I don't know, I don't practice that much, and I really have.
True confession. Yes, he practices.
From jamming with people.
He keeps his wife up all hours of the night, practicing his bass.
But to me, I think the most important thing as a musician, I think it's my strong point, is that I have my own way of doing things, you know, my own way of playing, that I don't try to emulate any. Obviously, there's lots of bass players that are great, you know, Larry Graham, Bootsy Collins, I take things from, but I don't, you know, I just try to play my own way, and that was, you know, from the beginning when I played, I always wanted to make sure that I didn't sound like anybody else, that I had my own way of going about it.
I'll have you know, I was very supportive of that.
And with Anthony's support, you know, through the years. Yeah, it's just that I think the key to any good musician, and I think that's what makes all four of us, you know, good at what we do. You know, it's what makes Anthony good at what he does, Chad and John, all of us good at what we do, is that we just do our things our way, and it's a very personal, individual thing.
That's why it sounds the way it does, you know, our personality through our experience, through our throats and vocal cords, so I think that's why we sound like Red Hot Chili Peppers.
The other thing that Flea's forgetting to tell you is that he's got Aboriginal blood, and somewhere in the past life he was probably like the King Whittler of an Aboriginal tribe. And his whittling style is probably kind of like this.
It's amazing, I thought the same thing.
Aboriginal blood, I mean, look at the guy.
Especially when his hair grows out, it really gives it away.
Especially when you can't tell his dick from his legs.
Give me away the family secrets here.
なんか音楽的なルーツっていうのは大体どういうものなんですか?
How about you guys' musical roots?
Musical roots? Pine trees, oak, ginger.
Douglas fir.
You know, like we said earlier, we grew up in America listening to all kinds of music. You know, from every house on the block, there's a different tune rocking, and there's so much music to love and appreciate. And America is a great place for music. I mean, you know, got some serious jazz music to get inspired by, and I don't think we have any like one root. Whereas you could say, you know, the Rolling Stones, their roots are in, you know, blues and R&B and rock and roll and stuff like that. You know, we sap from a number of roots, and we're not really that much of a root-oriented band because we're so diverse.
I think the question was like each individual member.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I think all of us have similar music tastes in the fact that we like anything that's good, you know? I mean, from the most simple punk rock music to the most simple root reggae music to like, you know, the most complex jazz, and just all, you know, all kinds of stuff. Anything that's got soul and feeling to it, you know, is our root. Anything that has made us feel something, you know, anything that I can listen to and gives me a shiver up and down my spine, or, you makes me shed a tear or whatever. You know, this is what's happening.
I'm sticking with the ginger root.
Answer the day. You want to speak collectively, guys. We do this, we do that, we think this.
It's a we, as I said earlier.
Is that in the contract?
I'm not giving the I and the we speech.
Give me an we speech.
No, I think that any, you know, it's like with a band or with any organization, when you have people that are, you know, working for themselves and thinking of themselves, it's never going to be as strong as, you know, an I is never as strong as a we. And, you know, that's the key to power and it's the key to success. And it's just like, you know, with the government, the way that the government likes to, main way the government keeps people down, like poor people, or, you know, people in ghettos or whatever, keeps them down is by keeping them, you know, divided and isolated amongst themselves. And, you know, the key to getting over on anything, any level of life is, you know, sharing common ideals with other people and grouping together. And that's what we've managed to do musically.
You can't make a fist with one finger.
What's a foot without the big toe?
We were pretty surprised at the rowdiness of the concerts here, the stuff flying around and whatnot. Is that pretty much the way it is when you perform back home as well?
In the States, it's quite a bit rowdier.
Is that right?
I think on a relative scale, I think the Japanese really threw down for us. You know, from what I had heard from different bands that have toured here from America, like Metallica, told us that they were real insecure on stage because after they rocked their balls off, you know, they got a very mild-mannered response, and they began to, you know, doubt themselves. But I think that's more a reflection of the Japanese personality as a whole. You know, I was pleasantly surprised at how enthusiastic and vibrant the Japanese audience were, and you know, we certainly encourage that, and you know, we really enjoy the frenzy of an audience. You know, it helps propel us along.
And yeah, I think you did a much better venue than Metallica did. Metallica was a large venue.
Right.
What did they do, Dreamcast?
I'm not sure. It's got how much larger?
They had like seating and, you know, everyone sat down.
Yeah, it's a different situation.
You know, and they sit there and, you know,
pretty much, yeah.
You know, to where I think maybe the help people go nuts at our shows because they could, you know, jump around.
Yeah, well,
while we were playing, you know, that helped.
It was a more intimate setting.
Yeah, we like that.
Hopefully we'll come back and play the music place for lots of things.
Love the sound of just seats. More money.
We're kind of like the wizards on stage, you know, using our guitar necks to stir the stew. And if we can't get that stew bubbling, then we're hurting.
There you go. Yeah.
日本のオーディエンスに一緒みたいなの喋っちゃいました。
それって
そう僕が見てたボーカルのアンソニーはもうすごいパワフルでエネルギッシュなんだけども、ステージでふと我に返ってですね、なんか自分のやってることは恥ずかしいなというふうに思ったりしたことないんでしょうか。
He was impressed with his performance afterwards, so it was very powerful and kind of gripping, but when you're ever up on stage, do you ever like kind of you know, return to your off-stage persona and think, my God, what on earth am I doing? Are you in sort of an altered state of consciousness?
If I ever ask myself what I'm doing on stage, you know, it's time to hang up the old tennis shoes. You know, that's the greatest release in my life is performing with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and that's pretty much the only time that I really don't have to think about anything. You know, it's just all feeling, and it's just, you know, I pretty much try to concentrate on only what we're doing, and I don't even usually, you know, recognize a single face in the audience. And if I do, it's a lapse of concentration. And you know, for me, I usually judge a show by how many injuries I come off stage with, how much blood, how many cuts and bruises I have. Although there are those unfortunate times when I do stop and say, "Shit, what's going on here? You know, are we happening? Oh no!" And then I get inside my head, and then it's fucked. But that's
right. That happens though.
That happens.
You have an off night.
I mean, by no means are we perfect. You know, I mean, that's the ideal. The ideal is to shut everything out and to play. I mean, that's the ideal. I mean, you can't always reach that, you know, that state of euphoria. But I mean, that's our goal.
And we have a pretty high level of success at achieving that goal, just because the nature of the music that we create and the nature of the four personalities on stage, it's a very tight bond, and it's a fairly rare occasion that bond is shattered, but it does happen.
You know, it has to do with we respect each other a lot, being in the band, and just being happy with being in the band and doing what we're doing makes it easier for us. If we were, doing it for other reasons, for less beautiful reasons, then it would be much more difficult.
But I certainly am glad you liked it.
Yeah. No. Do you never are offended by people who are expecting you to take your on-stage persona off stage? Do people expect you to be a little more wild than you are?
Are we offended by that?
Yeah, when you meet people off stage, they want to shake you around and say, "Hey, there's a wild guy here."
It can just be obnoxious, I mean, but it's understandable. People want to see something on stage, and they get on stage and they're in a fit of excitement. It's like, the other night in Kawasaki, as soon as we walked off stage, people greeting you, grabbing at him and grabbing his dick, and you're like, and
that's what I mean, yeah.
And it's like, when we go on stage, we're entertainers, and our job is to entertain, and that's what we do. But, we're just a bunch of regular knuckleheads.
I imagine it must be worse than the States, though. It's like, guy comes up on the other street, wants to headbutt you or something.
It happens.
It happens, but I think people are usually fairly respectful. A lot of times I run into people on the street and they might recognize me, and the norm of the response is just that I really appreciate your music and you guys rock, and I dig you in this. I try not to worry about that too much. I think we're all completely different off stage than we're on stage, but just the many sides of the Red Hots. Got to have our sensitive, loving, sweet, intimate side as well. I think it's a common thing, actually. I mean, take someone like HR from the Bad Brains, who's one of the maddest men ever to grace the stage. You get him in a hotel room for a conversation, and he's just the most peaceful, kind, a gentle, sincere type of a fellow. Real honest, heart-to-heart guy. He's not doing backflips off the bed or anything like that. Or take someone like Jimi Hendrix, who went out there and just lit the world on fire. And then from what I've seen in interviews and things, he's just ultimately gentle and personable, off stage. But obviously that's something that's inside of us, and for us, the stage is a place to bring it out.
Yeah. Watching the show the other night, he almost got the feeling you guys are working out in your extra hours there to show off something more than the music.
As far as our bodies and sexuality and all that.
Yeah, it's just,
I think it's just the natural way that we live. Keeps us fit and playing and living and loving, and
none of us lift weights or anything like that. Chad's been into lifting, but we like sports a whole lot. Things like basketball and skiing and golf. We're physical people. I think that if anything keeps me in shape other than just performing on stage, it's having sex, because that's the best exercise in the world. Burns out the calories, builds up the body.
Build strong bodies in 12 ways. There were some fans who were a little bit disappointed that cocks were not revealed in certain shows.
Cocks or socks?
Cocks.
They wanted to see the cock itself.
They wanted to see
They wanted to see
the axe.
Well, we heard that it really wasn't. At first, that we couldn't even show pubic hair.
Yeah, we were told that we'd get thrown in the Who Scout.
We were getting that big trouble.
Come out and shoot us or something. And our live shows are very spontaneous. There's been many shows when weenies will be flying. And there's many shows where they don't fly. It's very spontaneous. On various stages of undraft.
But you guys were somewhat reserved, having heard that the authorities were.
Well, we didn't want to get thrown in jail. We've had a few encounters with the law in the States over weenie wagging.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that can be a pain in the ass. And so when our manager said that you guys definitely go to jail, reveal your pubic hair, we had to think about it.
I shaved mine.
So he shaved his, but we got the go ahead from NASA, who's in charge of Smash. Said we could rock the socks, and we felt it on the second night in Kawasaki, so we let him have it. But give us a chance, and we'll gladly display our wares.
Next time.
Or goose.
最後にね、 まあいろんなスタイルがすごくいってるバンドの音楽なんで、今後のアルバムの展望っていうとどういうふうに推理されていくんだろう。まあ次のアルバムについてのプラン。
一番最後に出たアルバムはいつだよ。
この前のは去年ですよ。
去年。
それ母乳っていうやつなんです。
ああ、それ
は割とハードロックっぽいやつだったのね。で今後はどういうふうな音楽展開をしていくんだろう。
One last question on the next album. What can we expect? I mean, you guys always come up with sort of a mixed bag of stuff, although, you know, Mother's Milk was a little bit harder than before. I don't know if that's correct.
That was the way it was recorded. I think was harder.
Yeah, and you know, we have two new members in the band, and anytime the four-man band gets a couple of new members, there's going to be some changes, even though we're all, you know, working for the same goal. You know, individual personalities are going to be reflected in the sound. And you know, Chad here is the Godzilla of drums, and so you know, I think that lent itself to some hardness. And but as far as what to expect, you know, we don't even know what to expect yet, so we couldn't tell you what to expect.
I think the most important thing is that we're going to grow and mature and change and improve and learn, and you know, stick together and just get more powerful and more clear in our message. And
we intend to explore.
You know, on the next record, I think we'll be afforded the luxury of having, you know, more time and you know, to really, you know, do everything that we can in the studio. We can take lots of different options.
And I think we've already been afforded actually the luxury of having been a band now for over a year. When we made that record, we had only been together as a unit for a few months, and now we've sort of gelled into more of a unit than when we made that record. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest improvements is the fact that we've been hanging, we've been playing, we've been, you know, learning about each other and, you know, feeling each other out, and so we'll be more together than ever.
アルバムが全部でいい。
To see the album ever make it to the top of the charts in America? Number one?
Anything is possible. You know, I have very high hopes for our band for many years to come. Whether or not we make the top of the charts, that is not my main concern. You know, just that as long as we can always be really proud of what we're creating, and that it's strong and beautiful, we'll be happy. But you know, if we hit the charts, that'll be great, because then millions of people will be hip to what we're about. We intend to let the world know about ourselves.
どうもありがとうございます。
God, it must have been like 3-4 years ago. Some news program did like a story on you. Yeah, it was like,
just got the cover?
it was like something about struggling young rock stars. Oh, I remember that. It came to my house. No, what program was that? That was like years ago.
Yeah, some fucking news program.
It was like West 57 or 60 Minutes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That was actually some movie I did.
We'll get it done, this